Mickey Mouse. I don't know what it's like to not be a person, but yeah, what's it like, Mickey Mouse? People draw you and stuff?
Welcome to Story and Craft. Now, here's your host, Mark Preston.
All right, here we go. Another episode of Story and Craft. Welcome. Glad to have you back. Appreciate it greatly. And if this is your very first episode, well, welcome. Thank you for taking an opportunity to check out the show. Today, fun conversation. Really enjoyed sitting down with actor Ken Leung. You know Ken, he's been around forever. I mean, he's been on stage, on Broadway, film, TV. On film, he's been in Rush Hour. He's been in Star Wars, The Force Awakens. He's been in all kinds of great projects. TV, like The Sopranos. And one of my favorite shows of all time, Lost. He played Miles. And he's in the new season of Industry on HBO and HBO Max. It is on right now. Season 4 is out. We covered a lot of ground, had a great conversation, really enjoyed sitting down with Ken. And of course, I'd ask him questions about Lost. I'm like a fanboy. And hey, do me a favor if you would. We got something really cool going on. I'm a big fan of independent media and really like what's going on at Substack. Maybe you've done some stuff with Substack. It's very cool. They have kind of a different way of doing things. And I really am jazzed to announce that you can find Story and Craft on Substack. You can sign up for the newsletter. So every time a new episode comes out, you get a little email in your inbox with all the info. Just go to storyandcraft.substack.com. Once again, storyandcraft.substack.com. Of course, the website's always there for you. Storyandcraftpod.com. Everything you could possibly want to know about the show, past guests, and of course, if you would, make sure to follow Story and Craft on whatever podcast app you use or YouTube or whatever have you. Just make sure to follow the show. That way you do get notified when a new episode comes out. And of course, at storyandcraftpod.com, you can send me an email, send me a note. In fact, I got a really nice note from Kim. I'm not quite sure where Kim is located, but she said she wanted me to know how much this podcast has inspired her to pursue her dream, and she said, good job. So that made my day. You know, hey, if you're listening to this and it lightens your load a little bit, especially with turn on the news, or just, you're inspired by one of the guests, that makes me feel great. So thank you, Kim. I appreciate it. All right, let's jump right into it. Today is Ken Leung Day, right here on Story and Craft.
Hi, Mark.
Are you in LA right now, or are you?
I'm in New York.
You're in New York. Okay. Is that home base for you?
Brooklyn is home, yeah.
So y'all got a new mayor and everything, and things are buzzing. And
yeah,
actually, my daughter's
excited.
up there. She's up there right now. In fact, she's doing she did a semester abroad and just got back. And 2 seconds later, she wanted to go up to New York and hang out with one of the friends she met on the semester abroad. So she'd had her very first New Year's in New York. So she's always wanted to go up there when it's snowing.
Where was she abroad?
She started off in Berlin, which she loved, and then she went to London, which not as much, and then she went to Milan. But every weekend she was on a plane or a train. I'm like, God, to be 19 years old again, just kind of traveling Europe. And I'm sure the photo album, we're gonna have to have a long photo
a slideshow,
photo roll watching. Exactly. My kids and I during COVID, we power watched Lost. They're teenagers, we're at home, and we're trying to find something as a family. I don't know if that series is designed to be watched in a very compressed amount of time. We were watching at least 2 episodes a day. When I tell them I talk to you, they're going to be, I know my son's going to be very jealous. So
you watched all 6 seasons in
just like it was kind of like, did you ever see the movie This Is 40, Maude Apatow, Judd Apatow's daughter? There was that scene in This Is 40 when she's just on her iPad watching it.
That's right.
And she gets to the very last episode. I was like, that was my kids. Like every day it was like, we're watching 2 episodes. It's a ride. It was a great show, but I'm thinking, if it was referenced in This Is 40, and This Is 40 is a while back. I'm like, when was the last season of Lost?
Well, it was recent. There was a 20-year anniversary recently, I believe. So early aughts.
It's weird as you're getting older. I could say something was the other day. And it could have been months ago. I'm like my reference point. I was thinking of a guest I had on, and I was said, "Oh, it was just a few months ago. It was 2 years ago." So
Yeah.
my reference point of time is kind of a little shaken here,
I
but
think that's
uh,
because our minds can only hold so much. I, I
yeah.
I think that's why, at the end, not to get all somber suddenly, but at the end when people say, God, that was so fast, like it just all flew by. It's not that it flew by, it's that we can only hold so much.
I think we can only hold so much stuff of real value. I think some of the BS, some of the because when you're younger, everything's. I read something about this the other day. I don't know the psychology of it, but everything's new to you. And so as you get older, the only things you tend to retain are the things that are
Mm-hmm.
new. Which, when you
Mm,
think about your day to day life, we don't encounter as much new stuff.
mm-hmm.
But I also have this philosophy, and I'm kind of moving away from. I don't know about you and social media, but for me, I'm like, I'm kind of moving a little bit away from it because it's just kind of. I think we're designed to be like in a not a tribe, but evolutionarily speaking, we're meant to know really no more than maybe 100 people or something. I forgot what there is
Huh,
a theory behind that. And
huh.
when you have literally thousands or so many more people, it's a lot more interactions, and maybe they're not as I don't know. It's very
Mm,
interesting. The brain
mm-hmm.
is funny stuff how it works. But are you originally a New York kid, or is that where you're from? Is that your original home base
Born and raised.
in Brooklyn, or did you grow up in the city or
No, I
Queens?
I
Or
I grew up in Lower East Side slash Chinatown for all of the 70s. And then we moved to Midwood, Brooklyn when I was 9. And then I was there till high school and we moved to New Jersey, where my parents are now. And then I went to NYU, so I moved back into the city.
you grew up in I mean in the 70s in New York. That was a whole different kind of New York than now.
Yeah.
It was a lot grittier.
Yeah, I was little, so I don't have, my memories of it are really I remember the blackout of 77, I think it was. I remember Times Square, seeing King Kong there. I remember, oh, Radio City had this live piano player. I saw Puff the Magic Dragon there. I remember Chinatown when it was full of movie theaters. There isn't a single one left.
Is
Yeah.
Chinatown still very much? Because I know, like Little Italy, who was watching like Anthony Bourdain or Andrew Zimmer, somebody up there that things are kind of changing. Like Little Italy isn't like as Italian as it once was. Has there been that much of a change up there?
Not in terms of, I mean, it's still Chinese. It's just new businesses. And
Okay.
a lot of small businesses have closed down because of COVID. Uh, and I mean, not only COVID, but COVID created this kind of, there was all this anti-Asian violence for a spell.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and so a lot of places went out of business. But it's still the 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 vibe of it is still the same.
Were your parents were they born here, or are you the first generation in your family being born
I'm the
here?
first generation to be born here. They
Mhm.
came from southern China. I think they were in their either late teens or early 20s. I know very little about my parents' story, actually,
Really?
because
It wa-
they're very reluctant to talk about it. They're reluctant to talk, period. They're not communicators. Partially why I do this at all.
yeah, yeah.
Um, so, and something about, growing up, I would ask them about where they, back home, what it was like when they were kids. And I got a sense that it was not, first of all, they didn't like talking about it. And there was a sense that they were like, they never wanted to go visit.
Kind of like they wanted to close the door on that and move beyond it.
That's the
Do you
sense.
find that it's very interesting? My son is dating a young lady from Vietnam, and I mentioned Anthony Bourdain a moment ago, and I remember he did an episode in Los Angeles, and he had some Korean chefs and folks on, and
Uh-huh.
it seems like there's culturally when folks came over here, they really want you to do better. Was there like a big push for you to do things that are of course acting is I don't think on top of the list necessarily. But were they wanting you? Did they have a professional idea like in mind? Where like they want you to be an accountant, a doctor, a professor, or something like that, or were they? Was that even really discussed that much?
I think they just wanted me to be okay in a country where they were struggling to make friends with themselves. So they didn't really know what okay meant. And so maybe predictably, they wanted me to be in a profession that was reliable. And sure, like any parents, doctor, lawyer, whatever, something like that. So they took to me being an actor very, they didn't like it at all. I don't think they understood it enough to have a specific feeling about it. It was just kind of a general, show business is not reliable, famously so.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So, and to this day, we never talk about it. They never ask me how I'm doing, what I'm doing, how it's going. I've been at it for 20, 30 years now. And so there's a gulf between us as far as that. My dad, when he wasn't before he was retired, he was a high school math teacher, and so a lot of his students would ask about me, and he would talk to them about it, ask me for pictures and autographs for his students, but it never went deeper than that.
Did he start thinking, oh, well, okay, maybe Ken's doing something kind of cool? I mean, if his kids think he's cool, or
I
maybe
don't
cool
know.
wasn't really the objective.
I think it. I don't know. There's no way for me to know how he felt about it. I don't know that he knows what he feels about it because he knows so little about it.
With other kids of Chinese descent of your generation, did they have a similar experience to you as far as the parents not wanting to, they kind of closed the chapter on China, or was it, did you find similarities with other kids who were, were they raised similarly to you? So
I
you had
think
that
to a
kind of connection?
I think to a degree it was similar, but like I said, their personalities are very they're closed kind of people.
Okay.
Now, how much is because of where they're from, their upbringing? How much of it is just how they came out? I don't know. I don't know very much about them.
So you kind of did 180 degrees. You're ultra expressive and a storyteller.
Well, I'm not. I attempt to be. I became an actor to learn how to be part of this world and a person who is not closed. And because I'm their son, that's hard for me. It takes some doing. But I saw acting as, a safe space to meet people, to learn what it is to be in somebody's presence, what you and I are doing right now, how to have a conversation, what to do with my feelings, what are feelings. And I've said this before, I have felt like acting kind of raised me in that respect.
Now, the people you had an opportunity to work around, a lot of times we have, I know many, many years ago when I worked in radio, there's some people you kind of latch onto. They make sense to you and you kind of learn something from them. Was there anybody in your acting ecosystem that you kind of came into your own a little bit easier by kind of watching them or communicating with them? Maybe they had bits of advice for you or something like that.
I guess so through the years, but I see acting as I don't see it as something that I have down. I see it kind of as a new thing each time. And, this conversation right now is teaching me stuff. We're dealing with the tech that we had is teaching me, well, this could very easily throw me off or throw Mark off. And how do we find ourselves? How do we stay connected or connect despite
Well,
these
you
things?
sound inherently curious. Do you think you are? Do you think you're just kind of naturally a curious guy? Or are you kind of an explorer mentality, or am I kind of reading kind of accurately?
Yeah, I think I'm curious. I don't know that I'm any more curious than the next guy, but I think I have the luxury of people wanting to ask me questions and are curious about what I do. Not everyone gets that. And so I'm very lucky in that respect. I think I'm responding to that accordingly.
So did you study acting? Was this something that you tried to do
A
formally,
little
or did
bit,
you?
a little bit. I went to school not for acting, but I was in NYU's pre-physical therapy program. Um, and part of the requirements for that was a speech class. And during that speech class, a classmate noticed that I liked part of the class was that we had to act out skits. And he noticed that I really took to that part and suggested that I take acting. And he's like, yeah, you should take intro to acting and see what it's like. You seem to like this. So I did that. I took a couple of intro to acting classes at NYU. And I had a teacher, Catherine Russell, who was kind of a very practical minded teacher and taught us this is what a resume looks like. This is what to expect at an audition. So just go out there, put yourself out there and see what happens. And so I did that. Um, and so I didn't have a formal schooling as far as, I wasn't in any program, but I took a couple of classes and I learned from doing. I did a lot of plays, took another class at HB Studio with Ann Jackson, which was great. But to this day, I see it, it's kind of a classroom, the doing of it.
It's funny you say that because I think if you were to stack your resume up against any other working actor, you've had a wonderful constellation of different kind of work, different kind of experiences working with different directors, great directors, but you're still kind of in that learning the eternal
Well,
student
I
kind of
could
thing.
also say that I've lived almost 56 years of days, and that should mean that tomorrow I should master tomorrow. And I don't know that
Mhm.
necessarily. It depends on what it brings me, depends on what side of bed I wake up on. Um, so, you know,
It's kind of like being a parent, though. Like you could know everything. Like today, I remember when my kids were younger. Let's say they're 13. I can know everything about how to be a father of a 13-year-old. I've got this, man. I'm throwing myself a parade. I'm master father. Then the next day, they're a day older, and everything changes.
yeah,
So
yeah.
that's one of the things I
That's
learned
a
over
great
time is that
that's a great
it's
analogy.
always
Yeah.
it's always this kind of it's like a wave. It's the same wave, but it looks different from time. It's a swell to the time it
Not only is it different, you're different. You're different in
yeah.
every moment. So it's always now. It's always now. Even if you've done it, seemingly have done it forever, you're always starting all over again. That's kind of acting creates an environment that acknowledges that actually. So I love it
Uh,
for that.
God, what a great way to put it. I never really thought of it in that regard. That it's there is a philosopher, and I don't know, Alan Watts. I don't know if you're familiar with him, but
Yeah, I love Alan Watts. Yeah.
yeah, and he had a deep respect for Eastern culture and religion. His mother, I think, taught diplomats, the children of diplomats from China, and that was the genesis of it. And he talked about the eternal now. You're always living in now. There is no tomorrow. There's no. I think acting's unique because you can sort of trap something in sort of a like a jewel box for a moment. Like you can capture a moment and kind of live in that through multiple takes, over and over again, especially. But yeah, that's a really wonderful way of looking at it. Um, Going back to your experience though, when you first started working and you started feeling that you had some traction, were you kind of like setting not necessarily goals, but were you like, I really want to do this genre, or I want to work with this kind of director, I have this. Did you start setting goals, or were you just kind of riding the wave and see where it took you?
I didn't know how long I was going to be able to do it. I just wanted to be in it for as long as it would have me. And when I was starting out, that meant plays and theater. And sure, as an actor, as a young actor, you're always like, God, what would it be like to be in a movie or a TV show? And so, a lot of New York actors have Law and Order is their entry into the union.
Mhm.
And so I did a couple of those, and that led to other things. And then I got Rush Hour. The reason I got Rush Hour was because I was in a play where I had to bleach my hair blonde for the play. And so I auditioned with blonde hair. And I believe that is why I got that role. One of the main reasons why I got that role. So then that, things lead to other things, with a little bit of luck, circumstantial things like the bleached hair. So I just kept at it. It wasn't so much premeditated. It wasn't like I'm going to set myself a goal and then see if I can reach it. This field doesn't really doesn't lead you to do that. You're lucky to be in it for a day. A second day
Yeah.
is not promised. To this day, that's how I see it.
You've landed in a lot of things that I kind of mark as like, not I don't want to say pivotal, but really kind of really cool, not only cool projects, but like, was there anyone you worked with that you're like, ooh, this makes sense to me? They're as a director, what they're doing aligns kind of with the way I like to approach this thing. Was there? Did you
Sidney
have any?
Lumet.
Oh, you worked with Sidney Lumet, really,
Yeah,
really?
we did a
Well,
thing called Strip Search. It was right after 9/11, and it was based on the government, Big Brother, and it was based on the loss of civil liberties, and suddenly everyone's looking closer at everything because of the fear of terrorism. I had a chance to work with him previous to that on 21 Center Street, that show that he did. But I couldn't do it for some reason, so I worked with him on Strip Search.
well,
But
that's
Sidney,
one of the first books I read was something he wrote.
yeah, making movies.
Yeah, yep. I was captivated by it. Like he just talked about like how he starts his day and getting in the car with the driver. I'm like, it was just what a great experience that must have been to be with, somebody
Yeah,
arguably
Sidney
legendary.
Lumet, because he's very, when he auditions you, he's not watching you read with another actor. He is the other actor. He reads with you. And
Really,
the reason he does that is because all he cares about is the connection. Are you really talking to him? And once he registers that you're really talking to him and not executing some plan that you rehearsed in your bathroom, he's done. He doesn't need any more of the audition. He stops it. So I love that about him because I know he's watching very closely. He's very present. He's registering if I'm engaged or not engaged. He's that kind of a director. So I love that. And just generally, he's a very warm, almost paternal kind of presence on a set. Very encouraging and very supportive.
my apologies. I got a year and a half
It's
old
okay.
golden retriever, and usually he's upstairs, but now he's kind of graduated to being down here with me. But he's
Oh, cool. Oh, I'm glad he's
he
in the
likes.
room.
Oh yeah, he's on the sofa. He's looking out the
Was he
window. He's like,
sneezing? Was that a sneeze or something?
he oh yeah, he's like a wolf. We live on an island
A
called
wolf.
South Padre Island, and there all the people they use our street to get to the beach. So he
Uh-huh.
watches people go to the beach,
Ah,
and he like
there's a
wants to
lot for
talk
him to
to
look
them.
at. Ah,
Oh,
sweet,
he's very social. Yeah, yeah. So,
sweet.
of course, I'm not trying to do a tour of your resume, but there are a few specific notes. Of course, Lost. I think you're the first actor who I've spoken with who was on the show. Uh, I was
Oh, wow.
when
That's
you
surprising.
were
There's so many of
I,
us.
I know. I think there's somebody in there somewhere, but after all these episodes, I'm like, okay, I have to, at my
Yeah,
memory. When you auditioned for that, I'm assuming you just kind of a standard audition, or
I
your agent
didn't.
told you about it.
I didn't audition for that.
Really,
No, they
really,
liked my episode of The Sopranos. Cameron, um, Carlton Cuse, and Damon Lindelof. I said Cameron because we were just talking about Cameron Crowe. So they saw Sopranos. The way they made Lost was they found actors that they got a sense. Oh, let's see what they can bring. Something about this actor is interesting. Let's bring them to the island and see what happens. It wasn't so much even,
really. Is it like
oh, oh,
it was
we
like a
have
big
this.
chemistry test kind of a thing?
I think that's
Uh,
how they generally did things. It wasn't so
huh.
much we have this role, it's defined this way, who fits that. They kind of went in the reverse. They were like, we'll have the role be kind of formless, but we know we have a slot here for that we want somebody to fill. Now let's look for who is interesting to us. And they saw my episode of Sopranos and liked it, so they called me. So there was no audition, and not even much of a. There was a brief chat before I left to go there.
Well,
Um,
did they even tell you anything about? I mean, I don't even know how they would in a quick chat explain what the show's about. Or were you
no,
just kind of
no,
going?
the chat was to prepare me to not have information. It was we just want you to come, be present, and let's see how it goes. We have a vague idea of this role. You're part of this freighter team and this and that. But I didn't come away from that call with any real idea of what was going to happen.
Yeah, because your character in the show was not one of the original the people crashing a plane. You came on
I
a
came on
season or two
season
later.
4, 5, 6.
What I loved about that show, what was great, is it was an ensemble, of course, but there were multiple. Of course, you had the hatch, what was going on there, but wasn't there a space of time where it was kind of further into the show where y'all were kind of living in the past, for lack of a
Yeah,
better way of putting it.
yeah.
Yeah.
We jumped
Uh,
we jumped time. There was we had flashbacks, and then we had flash forwards, and then we had flash sideways. So we
okay.
played with time.
Generally, as a kid who loves being around the beach, what was that like to kind of, be on the island? You're working on this project. You are sort of on your own figurative island because
Yeah.
people aren't coming by. What was the experience of making that show like? And I don't mean to kind of groove just on Lost, but I mean it was a very pivotal, very big show for its time.
Well, it evolved. What it was like evolved because it started. I had never been to Hawaii before. I'm a city boy, and you couldn't find a more different environment that I was used to. So I was a fish out of water there, and because I didn't have information on what I was playing, and I was a young actor who kind of felt like I needed to know things, I had kind of a hard time in the beginning.
I don't know how day players came in or week players and even understood what the heck was going on.
Yeah.
You settled into it. I mean, there was your character. Everybody evolved. That's what made the show, I think, really interesting. Every character kind of evolved through relationships and through you thought they were crazy, but they actually had their stuff together, and vice versa. And I think it was a well executed show. And I don't know, with streaming and all that, I don't know if a show like Lost could really exist again. You have big shows like, Stranger Things might hit or something, but when you only had those few networks and you had appointment viewing and everybody on this night was going to watch the show, watching parties and things like that. What was that kind of a heady thing for you to be a part of? Or were you even kind of cognizant of the weight of the show in the moment?
Yeah, it was like once I got past that beginning discomfort of being on an island, being on a show that is such a mystery. Once I got past that, because I did get past that, then it was a ball. It was just the time of my life, and I'll never forget.
I can't even imagine. I am so incredibly envious because I can't imagine being an actor. And it almost seems like you're kind of at summer camp a little bit, because you
Yeah,
are kind
yeah, I
of
guess so.
siloed away with these folks. I know for a while people, what was it? The Dharma Society, was that the name of the thing?
Yeah,
There were things on
Dharma
eBay.
Initiative.
There you go. And that was it was such a great show because you didn't know what was coming, but did you collect anything there? Because I know on eBay people were selling like Dharma beer cans and all
I
this
have a
other
beer
stuff.
can.
Oh,
I
you
have a
do?
Dharma
Okay.
beer can. Yeah. What else do I have? I think I have little things. I'd have to look. But the beer can, I remember the beer can because I had to empty it like just a few years ago. I was going through my box of souvenirs from different things, and I noticed the can, and it had whatever was in it, and it was just disgusting. It was
Well,
leaking. It was messing up my other stuff, so I had to clean it up and stuff.
well, you go from a show like that we're now, let's fast forward. Now we're in the kind of the streaming era where cable, of course, hang on, Ranger. Hey, it's okay. He's a hot mess. I apologize.
Aw,
He's one to talk. He doesn't understand why people can't come in and play with us. He's a sweetheart of a
he
guy. He's
has a
smarter than me.
question.
It is funny though. He will listen when I'm talking to folks, and he knows when I'm wrapping up, and he's like, "Okay, it's time to play now."
Oh,
But
you can tell by your tone.
yeah, I coach voiceover also, and when I'm at the end of the
Oh,
session, when I coach some of my students, he'll know, and he'll stand up and he'll put his paws on my shoulder like I don't know what he reads, but he reads me
amazing.
very well.
He
He's
reads
very
your
zen.
energy.
I think so. I mean, that's the only thing that it makes sense to me what he's up to. But
That's so interesting that you coach voiceovers. That's such a un non-obvious art.
I think people, because it is, I think acting's a lot like that. It is very much, it uses all the same acting skills. A lot of people, I've worked with some actors in LA even, they're like, this is kind of like the Meisner method. And I was like, well, it's like being a kid. Use your imagination, because you don't have another, acting being reacting. You don't have
Yeah,
somebody there with you to bounce.
yeah,
So
yeah.
it's all imagination. So I was working with some Disney Channel kids, and they got nothing but when you're a kid, you got full imagination, and it's easy for you.
Hmm,
And when you get a little older, it's harder to kind of like, I guess, access that make believe. So that's why I like working with the kids, because they
hmm,
remind me how to stay goofy. But I think it's what was really cool. Kind of the last big heyday of big four network programming. Now we're fast forward to now, and like you're being on Industry, which was season 4. It's season 4, correct? Are you
yeah,
going
that's
into?
right.
And you're developing a big following, but it is well, let me ask you a question. Do you think your character is a lot different than, let's say, the character, let's go back to Lost? Do you feel he's a lot different, or do you think it's just
Oh
because
gosh, completely different.
as far as like internally what's going on? Yeah, you're very measured, your character in Industry. Yeah.
He's a lot older.
Yeah, yeah. In the first episode, you did mention something. I don't like giving spoilers, but you did kind of reference the age thing in perspective, and I thought that was kind of interesting. In the first or second episode, towards the end of the episode, I think
You mean
you're
of the
talking to a young lady
series?
of season 4. Season
Ah, I
4.
see, I see. Yeah. When season 4 opens, I'm retired, which is
Right, right.
different from the previous 3 seasons. So age and this a particular phase in his life is very prominent, whereas it wasn't so before.
I'm just kind of coming into learning more about Industry
Yeah,
and watching, really enjoying it, but it's a lot going on. It's a very dense show
yeah, it
with
is.
not just the subject matter that's being covered, but the personalities and the granted, I'm starting off with season 4. I'm going to go back and watch all of them. I'm like, I'm hooked now. Was there any prep for you? Was there any like, let me watch, Michael Douglas and was it Wall Street? What was that movie he was in? Or
Yeah,
were
Wall
you
Street.
trying to look? Were you kind of looking for your Mount Rushmore of like these are either fictitious or real world financial guys? What?
No, because it was such a foreign world, I knew that I needed to find something that came from me. Like it couldn't be something I was emulating or mimicking. That would only get you so far. I needed to kind of find where his drive came from in a way that I could understand. And so first that meant that I had to forgive myself for not knowing much about finance. I had to see it in a way where I did know everything about this world. I had to own the world, or find a way to think of the world in a way that I could own it, in a way that Ken, the actor, didn't, not knowing anything about finance. So I had to kind of go inside and not look for models outside.
Because it seems like that everyone in that ecosystem are sort of like the people behind the curtain, kind of sort of like in this current political climate we're in. We're imagining these are maybe the people all behind the scenes who are pulling levers and doing things that I'm happy when I balance my checkbook, So
Yeah.
I'm not, looking at this character and looking at again, I'm not as acquainted with the earlier seasons. Now people are listening to this going, oh, you got to go watch it, which I'm going to. Like
Four
Cal
seasons are
Penn.
almost like 4 different shows.
Really? Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
they're very different.
What was the biggest challenge for you? I mean, it was just like you say, just kind of finding your hook. Like this is your
Yeah,
handle to hold
that
on to going in.
that was the first challenge and the biggest challenge. After that was, I guess, to re-enter that space every couple of years was a little challenging because in between, you do other stuff, you live your life. So it took some re-entering. I had created a kind of very specific space and a very specific mindset to play this role. And it was something I had to come in and out of over 6 years.
As you talk about your career and you kind of, you're still kind of figuring it out. I'm like, you've had nice stretches on some really great,
Yeah,
great
yeah. I've been super,
creative,
super lucky. Yeah. Yeah. I'm never going to stop figuring it out or trying to figure it out.
yeah.
That's part of,
Being
that's the game. That's the game. Just like we are never going to stop trying to live our best life, be the best, best person. We never stop that. You're never going to.
as we evolve,
That's
how do
right.
we be the best person in this moment? And
That's
before,
exactly.
just wanted to quickly touch on the Project Hail Mary, which when does it come out? March. The trailers alone on this film, I'm like, I don't want to know too much about it because I love that feeling of not knowing a lot but jumping in, going,
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I saw you had Milana Vayntrub was in that. It was funny. I was talking to her
Oh, you got to
a year
talk to
ago, I
her.
think.
Oh,
Oh yeah, a
awesome.
little over a year ago. Yeah, y'all have worked together a couple times, I think, if I'm not mistaken.
Me and her? No, no. This was our first thing together.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Within the ecosystem of the film, where do you kind of come in on in this?
Me, her, and Ryan are a team of three that go on Project Hail Mary. Yeah.
That's all I want to know.
I may
don't
have
like
already
even.
told you more than I should have.
Oh no. That's coming out in March,
Yeah.
and do you have anything coming up after that? Anything in 2026?
Well, I'm going to start in a few weeks a new show that for the first time is going to be shot here in New York.
Well, that'll be nice.
Yeah. So that'll be fun. I don't want to say anything about it since we haven't even started.
Don't. I always I'm one of these people. I don't like knowing too much about, which is
Oh,
ironic. I
good.
do this, but I love being surprised.
You know what's funny?
Now,
As a callback to Lost, I went from wanting to know everything or as much as I could to what you're saying. Now I like knowing as little as possible because then I'm really engaged with what is this, you know?
and you don't want that part of your brain kicking in that predicts what's going to happen, and it's just like you just want to kind of like be in that moment.
Well,
Yeah.
like Alan Watts says, if you're not here now and you're always thinking of the future, when you get to the future, you're not going to be there.
That's the one thing about Alan Watts I remember is like, because I'm always one of these people planning. And it's like, okay, stop. Where are you? That's why I like take a walk on the beach and just like letting my brain just, empty.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
being in the moment.
Part of that is to be kind to yourself. Like, don't kick yourself for not being present. Like, be kind to be, okay, I wasn't present, and now I am, So I think kindness is part of it.
Something I call my 7 questions, kind of rapid fire, a
Oh,
little bit of
cool.
fun. I always talk food at least once, and I always ask, first question, what's your favorite comfort food? Great day or rough day, or something that just makes you feel good.
Bitter melon. It's also called ampalaya in Tagalog. And it's a gourd. It's ugly, but and it's medicinal. So
Yeah, I've heard about
either
that.
either
Yeah.
you love it or you hate it. And
Doesn't
when
it
I
look
was
kind of like a big bumpy cucumber? It's
exactly
kind of over
right.
like fat. Yeah.
Big bumpy
Okay.
cucumber is the perfect description. I mean, once you acquire a taste for it, you can't get enough of it, and I think it's really good for you. That medicinal kind of bitter taste.
The next question I got: if you're going to sit down, 3 people, you and 3 people have coffee, talk story for a few hours, living or not, who would those 3 people be
Oh my
that you would like to sit
goodness.
down with?
My brother, who passed 13 years ago, my brother. Who else? I would say Alan Watts, only because we're talking about him.
He's definitely my
But
favorite, without a doubt.
not only because we're talking about him, I would say yes to that. And Mickey Mouse. I don't know what it's like to not be a person, but
Wow, you just like landed on the moon of creating a whole new that's a great.
yeah. What's it
I don't
like
think
in your world, Mickey Mouse? People draw you and stuff.
Yeah, you're in an. I feel like we can travel to alternate universe. And
We just did a flash sideways.
very nice. Now, if you were to go back when you were a young guy, who was your very first celebrity crush?
Oh, what a great question. Oh my goodness. My very first. Well, I don't know if this is first, but Mary Lou Retton. I had the biggest crush on
Yeah.
Mary Lou
Oh,
Retton.
yeah. Without a
Yeah,
doubt. Without a doubt. That's
yeah.
we're of that generation, and Mary
America's
Lou Retton.
sweetheart.
1984 Olympics, right? 84 was it?
1984 Olympics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, the next question: if you were to be on an exotic island, okay, in your case, let's say you're living in the Hatch. All right, you're going to be
Okay.
there for a full year. You
Uh-huh.
could bring one DVD and one
Oh,
CD. You can
oh,
watch one movie over and over again, and
one
listen to one album over and
DVD.
over again. What would that DVD be, and what would that CD be?
And Rocky 2.
Rocky 2. Okay.
What? What are you going to say?
I'm trying to remember what happened in Rocky
Oh,
2.
it's the one where he has a baby. It's the rematch.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's when he actually ends up becoming friends with Clubber. Okay. Yeah.
No.
That's
They become friends in 3. Yeah, 2 is when he gets married. He and Adrian has problems during childbirth and falls into a coma. Their baby is born. He gets he doesn't want to have the rematch. He doesn't want to fight, or she doesn't want him to fight anymore.
okay.
And then she
God, it's been
does.
years since I've seen that.
Yeah,
God,
I know.
now I got to
It's
go
been
back and
forever.
rewatch it. Now, music wise, though, what's that CD going to be for you?
That CD would be there. Gosh, I lost this CD and I've just been broken up over losing it because I don't remember the exact name, but it's a John Coltrane live. I think it's in Berlin or something, but it's Black. I want to say Blackbird. It's called something like that.
That seems like that would work really well in the Hatch, though. Fire up a cup of coffee, you
Yeah,
sit back,
yeah,
you got some Coltrane on. That actually,
yeah.
especially when you consider the aesthetic of that mid-century vibe of the Hatch.
And it's live, so it feels peopled. Yeah, those two things.
Now, definition of a perfect day for you, beginning to end. What are the primary component parts of a day that you can define? Going, this is a perfect day for me.
Oh, any day that I get to spend the whole day with my son and my wife. It's just the 3 of us, and we're very tight. And I travel so much. I have to leave them so often.
Which is nice. Next project, going to be shooting it in New York. It's going to be nice.
Yeah. I'm so excited for that. Also curious, because what is that going to be? Sometimes it's as hard as it is to be away. It's also useful to be away because you're creating a space specific to the thing you're doing. So what happens when that space is home? That's going to be.
And as your son gets a little bit older,
interesting.
he's going to have this whole library of stuff he's going to be able to watch. Go, this is what Dad was up to. Some things maybe aren't age appropriate for him right now, but they will be
most
down the road.
things, yeah.
If you weren't doing this for a living, next question: what would you be doing if this was not an option for you? What
You
would
mean
be
if
the
I
number
could
2?
do anything? If I could do anything, I would
Anything.
love to be. I would love to be some kind of musician.
Very, very nice. What instrument?
Trumpet.
Very good. Last question I got for you. You're a Gen X kid, so you know the DeLorean. If you can go jump in it, and you can go back to when you're 16 years old, piece of advice you can give yourself at that moment to say, make that moment better, or to set yourself on a little bit different path. What would that piece of advice be?
Wow, Mark, these are amazing questions. Jeez. Listen and trust the voice inside of you.
That's wonderful. My friend, I very much enjoyed the opportunity to sit down with you. Hopefully, we'll have an opportunity to catch up down the line. This has been more than a pleasure. I wish you nothing but the best, and I'm going to go enjoy the rest of all 4 seasons of Industry now.
Thank you, brother. I'll talk to you next time.
All right, there you go. Ken Leung. This conversation was a lot of fun. I told you I was going to fanboy out on the whole Lost thing, and I'm glad he indulged me. Glad to know he's got a beer can at home, a Dharma Initiative beer can. That warms my soul. It was a lot of fun chatting with Ken. The new season of Industry, it is season 4. It is available right now, HBO, HBO Max. Pop over to our Substack. That's where you get signed up for the newsletter. A little change, totally free, but big fan of Substack, big fan of independent media, and really like what they're up to there. Just go to storyandcraft.substack.com. Once again, storyandcraft.substack.com. Of course, the website is always up, storyandcraftpod.com. You can find out everything about the show, past guests, send me an email, whatever you'd like to do. I greatly appreciate you, touching base. It's always cool to hear from you. And, of course, make sure to follow Story and Craft on your favorite podcast app. It does help people to find the show, and I appreciate that. And, okay, so I'm going to get on out of here, have myself a little bite to eat for dinner. It is dinner time, and I'm always doing this right before I eat. So, thank you. Thank you so much for stopping by. Another great episode coming up soon. And as I always say, from the heart, thank you so much for making what I've got going on here part of whatever you've got going on. And we'll see you next time, right here on Story and Craft.
That's it for this episode of Story and Craft. Join Mark next week for more conversation, right here on Story and Craft. Story and Craft is a presentation of Mark Preston Productions, LLC. Executive producer is Mark Preston. Associate producer is Zachary Holden. Please rate and review Story and Craft on Apple Podcasts. Don't forget to subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcast app. You can subscribe to show updates and stay in the know. Just head to storyandcraftpod.com and sign up for the newsletter. I'm Emma Dillon. See you next time, and remember, keep telling your story.
Come on.